Well, listen, Christmas is all about, sorry, hold on. Christmas is all about presents. It's all about presents. In fact, it's only a matter of hours before you're sitting around a tree or a living room or something with people that you really care about, that you love, and you're going to tear into all these things. It took a month to prepare. In just a few minutes, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be everything you ever hoped it would be. And some of those presents are going to be really, really awesome, and some of them are going to be not awesome. Like one time when I was 20 years old, my mom decided to get me a gift, and I opened the gift. I'm a little confused. I'm wondering if what's in the box is the same, and it was. It was the same. It's what it said it was. It was an UV glove. An UV glove is like a hand-shaped oven mitt, so you can take hot things out of the oven. Now I'm 20. The only time I turn the oven on is when the microwave's broke. You know. Not the best gift. I remember one time for my dad, we lived in the Midwest, and we didn't have the automatic car washes with the wax and everything, so we had to do that by hand. You wash, and then you wax, and then you got to buff it to take all the wax off of the car. And so I was like, you know what I should get him is an electric car buffer, so he could take that wax off automatically. It would just happen quick. And so he opens the gift, and he looks at me, and he goes, "But I make you wax the car." I was like, well, can I borrow your buffer? Like... Not awesome for him. Happy birthday to me, all right? But the best one really is my buddy, a friend of mine. He decided to get his wife something that still boggles my mind. You know how there's layers of gifts? You know, there's the stocking gifts. They're quick and they're small and they're super fun and all that stuff, knickknacks and all that. And then there's the kind of regular-sized gifts. And then there's the gift. You know what I mean? Like everything builds up to the gift. In fact, sometimes it's like, oh, I guess that's it. Wait a minute, what's this behind the tree kind of thing? You know what I'm talking about? It's the Red Ryder of gifts, you know? It's the thing that everything's been building toward. And so he strategizes every year to get just the right thing, for everything to come together in just the right way. And in his mind, as she opens this gift, you know, it's just going to go so right. And she's just going to melt and just explode up out of her chair and come and give him a big hug. And it's going to be awesome, right? And so she starts to open it, and you know that look that comes over a guy's face when he knows something has gone horribly wrong? She starts to wash over his face as she tears into the gift, and he's thinking, you know what, maybe this wasn't, maybe I should have thought this through, because she opens this, and listen, the disappointment on her face was only matched by the confusion on his as she opened this gift, the gift. It was a bidet. Let that sink in. If you don't know, ask the person next to you. Some of you are pretending you know and you're laughing. You need to find out because it's actually funny. If you're asking the Google, B-I-D-E-T, bidet. Apparently, now you got to cut the guy some slack because a few weeks earlier they had been with some friends who apparently had been to France or somewhere else and had a positive experience with the bidet. I don't really know. But he's watching his wife listen to her friends talk about this, and she's responding very encouragingly and positively as a friend, and he takes a mental note. She likes bidets. Not true. Still on the shelf in the garage. Some gifts don't land, but some do. In fact, I want you to take a second. I want you to think about what are some of the best gifts you've ever been given. Just let it run through your mind. Maybe you're a kid, you came downstairs and that shiny new bicycle was there. Maybe it was something you could shoot your eye out with. I don't know. Maybe it's something that burns gas and turns with a key that you got at some point along the way. Where was that best gift you've ever been given? In fact, take just a second and tell the person next to you, what's the best gift you've ever been given? Go. All right, so now you all know what you have to top tomorrow, okay? I've been thinking about this. I've been wondering, what makes a really great gift? What makes the best gift? And so I want you to hold your best gift in mind. Just kind of keep it in mind what the best gift was and see if some of these things aren't true about your experience with the best gift you ever got. The first one is this, that the best gifts are really, really thoughtful. Like someone had to think for a while to come up with the right thing, and they did such a great job thinking that you felt understood, you felt known when you received that gift. No matter what, you're like, oh man, this person really, really gets me. Because when you care about someone, you really know them. Anybody with me on that? A little head nod, thoughtful gift. Okay, look at you. Even gonna clap over here. I like you. Thing number 2, the best gifts, most meaningful gifts are costly. Anyone? I saw some ladies' elbows flying. Like, all right, so if you caught one, take a clue. They are costly, but not as costly in money. That's not what I mean. I mean they're costly in the sense that not only do they take a lot of thought, they may have taken a great deal of effort, may have taken a great deal of assembly, may have taken the several months to save up for or plan for to make that thing happen in just the right way. There was an investment on that part, because when you really care about someone, they're worth it, right? Anybody give me a little head nod on that? Number 2, we're 2 for 2, I think. Number 3, third thing that makes a really, really great gift is this. Life gets better afterwards. You know what I'm saying? It's not just the experience of opening. It's not just the excitement of getting something new. The thing that enters your life, it may have been something that you wanted. It may have been something that you needed. You may not have even known that you wanted or needed it, but when it came into your life, like the clapper, it's like everything got better. You know what I'm saying? Life changes just a little bit with some of the best gifts. As a kid, you got that new bicycle, and for a while, life is just so good. You know what I'm saying? The best gifts, there's something that maybe we needed, maybe we wanted, maybe even we wanted it and needed it more than we thought. And they show up in our life. Because when you really care about someone, you do your very best for them. Right? Anybody a little head nod on that? It's a good gift, right? But that's not it. Because if gifts were just a transfer of property, then we would get just as excited at the cash register, right? And if you do, we have a group for that on Friday nights, okay? It's different, because gifts are not just about property moving from one person to another. Gifts are about relationship, right? That gifts, they exemplify, they embody, they become a moment that expresses the reality of an existing relationship, and sometimes they do a really cool thing of driving a relationship forward. When they're really, really thoughtful, when they're really, really generous, when they really do kind of change life and make life better, those gifts really catalyze relationships, because there's something really awesome that happens in relationships when a gift is given from one person to another. Something magical happens. Something relational happens between two people when one gives the other a gift. Now, it's really cool that you decided to make church, that you decided to make God a part of your holiday. Now, you may have done that because you've lived a lot of life with Him, and He's the best, and it's awesome, and you enjoy life with God all the time. You also may just be sitting down the row from somebody who you just care a lot about, and you're willing to show up in a place like this. No matter where you find yourself on the spectrum, maybe you're back after a really long time. However you find yourself here, I have a question for you about how God fits into your holiday. If God were going to give you a gift, what would He give you? If God were going to give you a gift, what would He give you? Now, the thing about giving a gift is it doesn't just reveal something about the person who gets the gift. It also reveals something about the person who gives it. The person who gives it, it shows how thoughtful they are, or how generous they are, or how much they care about your life getting better going forward. In fact, A.W. Tozer said this. He's a philosopher, theologian guy. He said that what comes into your mind when you think about God is the most important thing about you. Now, I don't know if it's the most important thing about you, but it will definitely influence your answer to the question, if you were going to get a gift from God, what would you think He would give you? What would you expect? Now, some of you might be expecting something that's a little bit like Santa Claus. Not that God is a fictional character, though some of you might be thinking that, and no matter where you're at, there's a place for you here. We're stoked that you're here. But some of you might be thinking that God is a God who keeps lists. Like Santa has a list. He's going to check it twice, going to find out who's what. Yeah, you know the kids are in on it. I love it. So is God like that? A lot of people think that He is. And it actually causes a lot of people to avoid God. Because the truth is, if we're really honest with ourselves, we know we got a fair amount of things on both of those lists, yeah? That if you know you, I don't know how well you know you, but I know me, and sometimes I'm a mess. And there are times where it is like, I don't even know how I became the kind of person who would do something like that. Like, we just epically fail sometimes. And if God's the kind of God who's just waiting for that to happen and strike when we do, or cast judgment or criticism or distance us, then that's not really a God I'd be super interested in, because we could expect a gift a little bit like this from a God like that, right? It's like, oh, There's nothing more tragic than a beautiful box and you open, there's nothing there. Is God like that? God's not like that at all. Not the God of the Bible anyway. In fact, the Bible says that God showed up for us when we were at our worst. That when we were his enemy, when we were broken, when we were lost, when we were doing anything and everything we could to distance ourselves from him, he came after us. That's the God of the Bible. He's nothing like this. God does have two lists, but it's not naughty and nice. I'll tell you about it in a minute. Now, some of you are like, that is tragic. That is not what gifts should look like. Gifts, like good gifts, like if I'm going to be excited about a gift from God, it better be a good gift. And good gifts look a little bit like this, right? Show me the MacBook, right? Those of you who are Windows users, it's okay. You're welcome here, okay? Now, some of you prefer to play games, right? You like gifts like this, all right? That's all good. That's cool. Some of you are Xbox people. Don't be offended. We are equal opportunity. It's all good. Some of you prefer to wear your gifts, right? You like the gifts to, yeah. You're like, there's some excitement down in the front row here, right? And some of you are like, that bag is not big enough. Well, it's the only one they would give me for free. And some of you actually prefer your gifts in boxes, right? Yeah, come on now. Yeah, I didn't buy this. I borrowed it. And some of you hope that God is a God who gives you really, really, really great stuff. Gives you the job when you want it, gives you the relationship when you want it, gives you the step forward when you want it, the grades that you want, all the things, the car that you want, the house that you want, all the kids that you want, all the things, right? And unfortunately, some people show up kind of expecting God to be like that, but God's actually way more interested in a relationship with you than giving you great stuff. That the stuff that comes along with following him and the good things in our life, like that's not God's top priority. That who you're becoming is actually his top priority. And so some people show up expecting God to be like this, and that's not really God, that's a genie. In fact, if that's what it is, if God is the kind of God who only gives you the things that you want, anytime that you want it, the way that you want it, that actually makes you God, not him. It just makes him your servant, right? And so that's not what God is like. In fact, parents, you know that's a terrible idea, right? Anybody raising their kids by giving their kid every single thing that they want, any moment that they want it, in the way that they want it, at the price that they want it? It's a terrible idea. God's not like that, right? It's not how it works. So, but here's the thing. Okay. So if God's not really mean and ready to judge me, and God's not ready to provide everything that I want, then what is God like? If I were going to get a gift from God, what would it be? Now, one of the coolest things about God is that I believe personally, I think the Bible is very, very clear that God spoke us into existence. He created us to be an image of him, a reflection of him. And so some of the very best things about us are actually reflections of some of the very best things about him. And the Bible actually says that if we know how to give good gifts, you should imagine the kind of gifts that he knows how to give. So if God were going to give you a gift, if he were a good God, if he actually cared about us and loved us, my guess is the kind of gift he would give us would be really, really thoughtful. It would show that he knows us inside and out, maybe even knows us better than we know ourselves. But at least he knows us better than we thought he did. It would also be the kind of gift that not only would it be really, really thoughtful, but it would be really, really costly. Because if God cares about us, then he would demonstrate that with how much he invested in us. Because the more you offer someone, the more value you're ascribing to them. The more you give up yourself on behalf of someone else, you show how important they are. So if God were going to give a really good gift, it would have to be really thoughtful, it would have to be really, really costly, and it would have to be the kind of thing that life got better afterwards. Right? I'm guessing it fits all three of those categories that we talked about. So can you imagine what God would give you? What could God give you that would be the most thoughtful, the most generous, and the most life-changing thing that he could offer you? The Christmas season actually gives us a really cool image for this. It looks like this. God says, if I could give you something that would be the most thoughtful gift possible, if I could give you the most costly gift possible, if I could give you the most life-changing gift possible, God says, I will give you myself. Because Christmas really is all about presents. It's not about presents in a box. It's about presence, about God showing up over and over and over in our lives, saying, no. I'm going to show up in your life. I will live with you all the time. Not one time 2,000 years ago on a starry night in a cave, but instead, I'm going to show up day after day in every single circumstance. I'm going to be so thoughtful, I'll know exactly when you need me. I'll be the kind of one, and God is so generous. I love this, that he showed up in this way, and he grew up from a child to a man to say, hey, listen, if you ever thought you were misunderstood, you're not. Because God came in a way not only that we could understand him, but showed that he would understand us. The scripture says that Jesus was tempted in every way the way that we are, and yet he was without sin. So it was thoughtful. It was costly. He set aside eternal, right? The scripture says there was no beginning and no ending to him, and yet he localized and came into one spot at one time. All power, all times, all authority, all knowledge, and instead became a baby. Very, very costly gift. And the kind of life-altering. In fact, it's in the Christmas story. Now, there's 3 versions of the Christmas story in the Bible. There's one in Matthew, there's one in Luke, and there's one in John. If you're a Cliff Notes kind of person, John's your guy. John chapter 1, verse 10. Here's the Christmas story in half a sentence. He came into the world, the very world he created. That's the Christmas story. He showed up. And if you think about that for very long, whether you're a theologian, a philosopher, just a random person, that will melt your mind just a little bit. A creator entering his creation. But the world didn't recognize him. He came to his own people, even though they rejected him. But to all who believed in him, did you catch that? To all who believed in him. Not all the good people, not all the people whose nice list is longer than their naughty list, not to all the people who do all the right church things or show up at church often enough, not to all the people who say all the right words in all the right ways, not to all the people who don't have shady stuff in their past. That's not what it says. It says to all. Just to all. To all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God. You see, God really does have 2 lists. It's just not the naughty list and the nice list. He has 2 lists. You know what they are? The first list is all his kids. And the second list is everybody he wishes he was his kids. Those are the 2 lists. There are people who accept him and believe what he's done in Jesus, and he says, you're in my family. And I'll live every second of your life with you. I'll be there when you need a hug. I'll be there when you need wisdom. I'll be there when you need provision. I'll be there when you need like a swift kick in the, anyway, I'll be there all the way through to be everything that I will offer you my presence. I will show up every single time. You'll never have to ask me to show up because I'll already be there. That God moves into our lives to be present. And so when it's desperately hard, we never have to question whether we're alone. When we feel desperately isolated, we don't ever have to wonder if we're misunderstood or all alone in this thing. When we're not sure how it's going to provide, we can trust the God who spoke everything into existence, who oversees it all, who is in all times at all places to give us exactly what we need at exactly the right time. It's his kids. It's what a dad does. It's what a parent does for their kids. They show up over and over and do just the right thing at just the right time to the very best of their ability. All his kids, that's one list. Did you catch the other list? All the people he just wishes would let him do those things for him. These are all the people who love spending time with God, and he loves spending time with them. And these are all the people God would love to spend time with. That he says, you know what, the very best thing, the most thoughtful, costly, life-changing thing I can offer you is himself. Now, I get it. Some of you are like the kids in the video. You're like, maybe tomorrow, but I can touch the MacBook, right? I can drive the truck. What presents, really? I'll take these presents over that kind of presence. And I get it. Sometimes we miss it just a little bit. And so I was thinking about what kind of image really shows us how important being there really is. What kind of image would show us just even a snapshot of someone who gets what it means for someone to be present with you, right? And I was thinking that our community actually creates a perfect context for tons of us to understand this and tons of us to have friends who understand this. In fact, I bet you'll get it in a single snapshot. Check this out. This is my little buddy, Kale. You think Kale cares if there's a MacBook in that bag? He sure doesn't. Because when mom gets home or dad gets home, they can trust that all the right things will come at all the right times. The hugs when it's hard, the wisdom when they're confused, the provision when they need it, All of those things will come along just because mom and dad showed up. They are present, right? One of the best things a parent is able to offer a child is their presence. And this is exactly what God offers us. In fact, this little guy, Kale, would grow a couple years past that picture and go into his very first flag football season. And unfortunately, Josh, his dad, was deployed for his entire flag football season. And so Kale is doing one of the best things he's ever done with his life. Growing up in a family, loving football. His dad's crazy about football. He loves Ohio State, but we love him anyway. We won't hold it against him. And so Kale is just so stoked. In fact, his jersey's even Buckeye red. It's so good, right? But Dad's gone for the whole thing. It'd just be so cool if Dad could just be there because presence matters. But he resigned himself to a whole season without Dad watching, cheering, coaching, hugging, celebrating after the game, high fives, halftime, and all that. Until at just the right time, a flight came through and everything lined up, and this happened.
That's your surprise.
How good is that right there? You know what I'm saying? Some of you really get it, don't you? Some of you really get it. God says the very best thing that he could offer us is his presence. And so at Christmas, some of you are crying. I watched like 6 of those videos at Starbucks. Everybody thought I was crazy. It was a mess. There's something so right when relationship deepens. There's something so right when people come together. And there's no more important coming together than God with his children. When someone who has tried to live without him finally says, I'm done with that, God, I'll take your presence. And he shows up and life is pointed in a new way. In fact, that's why Christians are so excited about Christmas, because we celebrate the reality that God didn't leave us in a mess. He showed up. And we get to enjoy his presence all the time. We so screw it up sometimes. And we so try to do it on our own sometimes. But he forgives us. We step right back into relationship over and over and over. And he has pointed the way. He's rescued us from brokenness. He's rescued us from marriage. He's broken marriages. He's rescued us from addictions. He's rescued us from financial ruin. He's rescued us from all kinds of things. He points the way forward. Does he lavish every single gift that we ever want at any single moment? No, but he's always there, and he's always doing what's best. And we never have to wonder if we're alone, and we never have to wonder if there's going to be enough, and we never have to wonder if we're forgiven or things are okay. We never have to wonder if it's going to be coal in the box, because it's not. Because this baby would grow up to be a man. He would never fail, and then he would take all of our failure on his back, and he would die on a cross on our behalf so that we would never have to be separate from God. So that God, by his Holy Spirit, could come into our lives and live every single second of our lives with us as he slowly puts us back together the way he always dreamed that we could be, and then he finally finishes it in the end when Jesus returns. And so we celebrate, and it's awesome because God is present. He's here. He's not distant. He's with us. In fact, so many people get so confused about this. They think religion is about climbing your way back to God or getting one list to outbalance the other, and all of that is not at all what Christianity is. A lot of religions are that way, but that's not Jesus. Some people think that Christianity is all about finding your way or climbing your way to heaven, and that is not it. Christianity is all about heaven coming to us. That he showed up and he brought hope with him, he brought joy with him, he brought love with him, he brought all the things that we always wanted and weren't even sure we wanted it. All the things we desperately needed when we weren't even convinced yet that we needed it. Christmas is all about presence. And when he's here, we can trust him for all of those things along the way. And so some of us celebrate like crazy at Christmas. We're just like Kale. As soon as Dad shows up at home, we sprint to the front door and dive off the front steps because Dad is here. What you don't know is that Kale has a younger brother named Crew who's 1-year-old. And as a 1-year-old, I don't know what goes on in a 1-year-old brain. I've had 4 of them come through the house. I still don't know. But I saw a video when Josh came home of Crew And Crew is excited because the family was excited, but I'm not sure he knows exactly what dad means yet, what it means to have dad home. And so his hand was on the door frame, and he's watching mom and watching his brother run and leap, and he's not really sure where he fits in this whole thing. He's not entirely sure how important it is for dad to be present. Or maybe he's just really smart and didn't want to face plant off the steps because he can barely walk. I don't know. But I wonder if some of you are like Crew, that you showed up with people that you love, but you wouldn't say that God is present in your life. And you're not even sure what that means, but I just want to encourage you. You don't have to stay on the list of people that God wishes were his kids. It was very clear in John earlier. To all who would believe and accept him, he gave them the right to become children of God, to be present with God all the time. And some of you have been waiting for a long time. Some of you come back after a long time, and it's time to just step back into the family. It's time to stop messing around and step back in and ask God to be really present, start heading his way. Some of you aren't sure yet, and that's awesome. I just hope that wherever you are, you'll create just a little bit more space for God, because he's not ready to give you coal, and he's not ready to give you everything you ever dreamed of. He's ready to give you him, because gifts are all about relationship. They're all about presence. And so I hope that you'll show up again and again in the lives of the people that you came with, or I hope you'll show up again and again in a place like this, a church where you came from like this, that helps you see clearly who Jesus is, because I'll tell you right now, he's the best. He's better than you think. As great as you think he could ever be, he's 10 times better. And so I hope you'll take a step closer to living in God's presence every day, because that is the Christmas story. That God offers us his presence. We celebrate this in a cool way every single week here at Canyon Ridge. We celebrate the life of Jesus by taking a little piece of bread and a cup of juice, symbolizing Jesus' body and blood, because we don't just celebrate his birth, we celebrate his death and rebirth, his resurrection, calling us into a new kind of life. And so if you're a believer, you follow Jesus, whether here at Canyon Ridge or any other church that follows Jesus, we invite you to take communion with us. For those of you who don't follow Jesus or trust Jesus with your life, we're so glad that you're here. Keep showing up somewhere like this where you can look at Jesus. But just let the tray pass on by and consider the possibility that God is really, really good. And he would be really, really present in your life if you just invited him. Create a little space for him. Let's take communion together.